So we have a very interesting speech here by Thabo Mbeki, ex-South African, former South African president. He's explaining about what's happening in Africa. And clearly, thank you very much for stopping by. Is Thabo Mbeki supporting coups in Africa? You know, coups are clearly when you don't run to elections to overthrow a president. Coups are when you take up weapons and to overthrow a president that you don't like very much. Now, we all know that many countries in Africa, especially French-speaking countries, some of them, at least three, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, have been very, very, very strong. They have toppled their presidents recently. And people are wondering why. Why have they done that? Is this right or wrong? Thabo Mbeki has something to say about it.
But I think we've got to understand this about the West Africa situation. You know, where a few years back, you remember we had to work with Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, to help them to get sorted out. And one of the things that we found was that there was an agreement with France signed at the point of the independence of Côte d'Ivoire that France would maintain a military barracks in Abidjan.
Wow.
Capital.
An agreement with France was signed with Côte d'Ivoire during independence that France will keep a military presence in Côte d'Ivoire. That's very interesting. This man is very credible. He is an ex-president of a big country in Africa. So what he's saying should be taken into account very, very much.
And the commander of the French troops, in any situation where he felt the security of Côte d'Ivoire or the security of France was threatened, he had the power, sovereign power, a French general, to take over the public station broadcasting and announce whatever he liked. It's one of the agreements, one of the 12 or so agreements.
Unbelievable, fellas. So a soldier or a general from France was permanently in Côte d'Ivoire. As per the agreement they signed after independence, a general will be in Côte d'Ivoire with his barrack, with his military, with his soldiers. And whenever they felt that the French interests were threatened in Côte d'Ivoire, they will take over the radio or the TV and announce whatever they like. What kind of a free country is that? Or what kind of independence is that? So this is my country, my African country. In order for my African country to get independence, I have to sign a contract with the colonizers. The colonizers say they have to leave a general and barracks in my country. And in case the general feels like their country is threatened by any way, by anything, they can take over the TV stations, the radio, and announce whatever they want. Is that a free country?
That not only Côte d'Ivoire, but many countries of the Francophone countries that signed with France at independence. Mali just now has just repudiated all of those agreements. I think there were 11 or 12 of them, which include prescriptions about when you've generated a foreign currency, bank it in Paris.
You hear that? The prescriptions say if you generate foreign currency, bank it in Paris. So whatever money you make, whatever interest you've got, it has to be banked in Paris for it to have value. Very interesting.
And Paris, the French franc then would guarantee your currency, CFA.
Just a reminder, CFA franc is the money that is a currency utilized in West Africa by many countries. And CFA franc is used by French colonies in West Africa. And these countries, after independence, unfortunately, did not develop their own currency. So they use a currency that is printed in France. And this currency is supported by the French currency, meaning they have to pay every year an interest to France from their currency. And these are supposed to be free countries.
Part of what is happening in West Africa, Palisa, as you can see, is a rebellion by young officers against French neo-colonialism. It's not only military coups to remove some elected president, but these young soldiers are saying our politics since independence has respected this junior relationship with France. That must end.
So Mr. Thabo Mbeki, former president of South Africa, says the reason why these coups are happening right now, it's because the younger generation have had enough of the modus operandi. So in the past, when colonizers left countries in most of the world, they kept the footprint, okay? They kept the economy by the balls. They kept some sectors. They were very influent. They had free passes, free accesses, and sometimes to the detriment of the local people. In some countries, for instance, they export all the minerals, all the goods to Europe. In the meantime, themselves in the country don't have developing plants. They don't have electricity. They don't have food. They don't have water. They live in poverty. So this generation say, no more. We're not afraid anymore. Because the previous generation was like, okay, let's just accept it, provided that me as a president, I've got money. I have enough for my family. My people are doing okay. We can sacrifice the people. Now, this generation says, no, we don't want those contracts anymore. We don't want those agreements anymore. We do not want anybody to stay in our country anymore. We want nobody's force, nobody's military, nobody's soldier in our country, because we can run our countries ourselves.
So you see the big confrontation between these countries and France, it has to do with ending like the agreements I've talked about. That you'd have a French general based in Cote d'Ivoire who has actually the power to intervene in Cote d'Ivoire as he liked. So it's an anti-neo-colonial rebellion. It has got this element, you are quite correct, of removing elected presidents. How does the continent deal with that?
So again, Mr. Mbeki says it's very easy to call it a system to remove democratically elected leaders. But that's not the depth of it. This is deeper than what it portrays itself to be. The reality is this younger generation have had enough. They do not want to be tied the way the older generation was tied. They want to be freed.
Well, you know, the OAU has a standard policy, as you mentioned, against illegal changes of government. So the military governments don't get recognized. But we have a particular consequence now, where Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso decide that they are walking out of ECOWAS. Now that can be a positive development. What is to be done? It's not a question that we can answer here. But I think, again, I'm trying to say, it's necessary for us to understand the objective reality. What actually is happening? It's not just young soldiers who are hungry for power and therefore remove this elected president. No. That's why they talk about Thomas Sankara. Sankara took power by coup d'etat. He was a soldier. But Sankara understood this particular issue, the need to destroy and defeat neo-colonialism. And that's what these young soldiers are saying. What do we do with them? What does Africa do with them? I think Africa is a challenge, a problem, answering that issue, answering that question. Again, you see, with regard to these issues of our need properly to understand what are we dealing with. It relates, for instance, to the matter you mentioned.
So again, fellas, I think this is very, very interesting to hear Thabo Mbeki express himself with a lot of power with regard to this issue of coups d'etats in Africa. And he mentioned Thomas Sankara. That was a very, very profound, very strong president. He was young at the time, Burkina Faso ex-president Thomas Sankara. He was a young man who overthrew the government back in time because he was against neo-colonialism. He felt like Europeans had too much power in Africa and Africa had to develop itself. He was not a partisan of getting money from World Bank. He did not like the idea of renting money from World Bank and paying back with so much interest. He knew that World Bank would put interest to a level where it would be almost impossible to pay back. And once it is impossible to pay back, they will come to your country. They'll take your minerals. They'll take your goods. They'll take your services. Sometimes they'll take your port, and it's going to be very difficult. Unfortunately, Thomas Sankara was a little too fast for his people, and some of his own people took him out. And one of his best friends was the person that took him out. That's why I always tell you must be very careful. I don't like brother, my brother. No, somebody must show you brotherhood. They shouldn't tell you I'm your brother. You should see it in their action, in what they do, in how they defend you. That's the only way you see who your brother is. You don't know your brother when you look at them. You can feel your brother. So, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, President of South Africa, says, whatever these people are doing, these coups, it's very easy to look at them in a negative light. Because even if you chase them, now they've removed themselves. It's like they're trying to punish Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. It didn't work. Because now Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, even though they were trying to be punished, they now say, you know what, we don't want to be part of your group anymore. We don't want to be part of your group. We're going to create our own unity. Because we look like we are the real brothers. Because you're not. It looks like you guys are working for the interest of other nations, or Western nations. We want to be together. He says, and that's not a win for Africa. Let me know how you feel about this. Always a great pleasure. I like it when you write your comments, when you contribute. It's encouraging. Okay? Don't comment. Come on. And once more, fellas, Facebook has told us many people, YouTube as well, many people watch our channel, but that are not subscribed. Please subscribe if you like, subscribe so we can make this bigger. God bless.